In April 1815, a volcano erupted far away in Indonesia. It had a dramatic effect on the world's weather and the political climate. Tongues of flame leaped high into the sky. Explosions ripped the air, and smoke and ash swelled high above the Java Sea. Beneath the volcano, over 70,000 perished. It seemed like the end of the world. Mount Tambora's eruption was the largest in recorded history. The explosion was heard over 1,200 miles away. 160 cubic kilometers of debris were thrown into the atmosphere, creating a volcanic winter which lasted the whole of the next year. In Europe, crops would fail, livestock die, and people starve. But the fires and shadows of Tambora had the most surprising effect on the imagination of one young woman. One of the greatest literary creations of the Regency period was Frankenstein by Mary Godwin. She was first the mistress and later the wife of the notorious Percy Bysshe Shelley. The original manuscript is here at the Bodleian. Normally only scholars get to see it. This priceless manuscript is kept safe in Oxford, high up in the tower at the Bodleian Library. There I'm going to meet the writer Daisy Hay, an expert on Mary Shelley, and she can tell me about Mary's curious Swiss holiday, a holiday that gave form to one of fiction's enduring creations. Daisy, hello.
Hello, hi.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
What have we got? What have we got? What have we got?
We've got the manuscript of Frankenstein and some pictures of Mary and Byron and Shelley.
Okay. So tell me about this holiday on the banks of Lake Geneva.
Well, what happens is that in the spring of 1816, Byron leaves England for good and heads down the Rhine Valley to Geneva. London has become too hot to hold him. And he is joined there, kind of by accident, by Shelley and by Shelley's mistress, Mary Godwin, and by Mary's stepsister, Claire Clairmont.
This is a really complicated situation. So we've got the two romantic poets, and we've got the two sisters, and the second sister is kind of stalking Byron.
The second sister has decided by this point, Claire, that she wants a radical poet of her own, and she writes to Byron and offers herself to him, an offer which he accepts, and this results in a very brief affair just before Byron leaves London. And thereafter, Claire persuades Shelley and Mary that they should follow Byron to Geneva. So they all meet on the shores of Lake Geneva in the summer of 1816, having arrived by different ways. And Byron takes a large villa, a grand house on the shores of Lake Geneva called the Villa Diodati.
And it rains a lot. The weather is an important part of the story, isn't it?
Yes, the weather turns. Initially it's very beautiful, but then it turns, and thunder echoes around the lake. Huge lightning storms. And the group retreat inside to tell ghost stories and to read Coleridge.
The weather's bad all over the world, isn't it, because of the volcano exploding?
Yes, so right across the northern hemisphere, really, crops fail and the sun sort of disappears, and there's terrible agony and distress in which they will come back to in England in 1816. So what they're experiencing is part of a much wider phenomenon.
So they're all cooped up together, they're telling ghost stories, and Mary's turns out to be the best of the lot, doesn't it?
It does, but initially it doesn't happen easily for her. Everybody else gets on with their ghost stories quite quickly, and she can't think of one until one night she has a nightmare. She calls it a waking dream, and this vision of the moment in which her monster, the Frankenstein, is created comes to her, and then she's able to say, I have thought of a story, the following one.
And here's the actual moment in her own handwriting. This is great. This is the moment that the monster comes to life, and the narrator says, in the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. And then down here, Shelley, her future husband, he's annotated it, he's improved the writing. Do you think he's improved it?
Well, throughout you can see Shelley's annotations in the margin of the manuscript, so you can see the difference between Shelley's handwriting and Mary's. And what he did is he edited the manuscript as she went along. So you can see that he's changed, for example, handsome for beautiful, and has added a description of the hair here as lustrous black.
Lustrous black. What's the significance of Shelley changing it? What do you think he was adding to the story there?
Well, something about lustrous black is he's sharpening the contrast, I think, isn't he? We've got this creature described in terms of colour. We've got yellow, and there's something almost unearthly about the vividness of this, I think, and the change to beautiful rather than handsome. It's somehow something more inhuman about it, I think.
What was the atmosphere like at the villa? Because Byron was definitely the most successful of them so far, wasn't he? Was it like a rock star with his groupies?
Well, I think, as you say, he was the most famous. He's older, he's richer, he's an established poet. But I think that perhaps what the atmosphere is like, it always seems to me to be quite like those kind of conversations you have late into the night when you're a student. They are all very young.
Did you practice free love late in the night when you were a student?
No. But you know when you argue about things and you stay up till 3 in the morning, and that seems to be quite familiar, what they're talking about, the way they are to each other. It's that very intense way you are when you're young and you're working out what you think about the world.
Here's another bit of Shelley inserting his views. What does that one say?
So this is a section with quite a long bit of Shelley annotation. It starts here and then goes over the page. And this is where he's talking about the virtues of a republican system rather than a system with monarchies, and talking about this in terms of how you treat those who are more vulnerable than you, and particularly about the servant classes, and about how the system of having servants in Switzerland, which is a republican country, is preferable to that in England. So he's saying the republican institutions of our country have produced simpler and happier manners than those which prevail in the great monarchies that surround it. So this is a Shelleyan manifesto, I suppose, sneaking its way into Frankenstein.
And Shelley isn't alone, is he, in this decade, the 1810s? There's a lot of people, respectable people, talking up against absolute monarchy.
There really is. And for people like Shelley and those around him, the way in which power is concentrated in the hands of a tiny minority just seems to become untenable. So Shelley writes a proposal for putting reform to the vote. He wants there to be a referendum on universal manhood suffrage. And so there's a feeling that the way in which British society is structured cannot go on.